Ever get that feeling? Like the high school history class, maybe skip a few chapters. Today, we're digging into our ancient family. And I'm not talking about, you know, distant cousins.
Right, this isn't about those early primates. We're going straight to the heart of the matter, genus Homo, as in Homo sapiens, us. Although, turns out we're just one branch on this, well, surprisingly full family tree.
9, and I'm not exaggerating, 9 different human species walking around on this planet. Okay, before we get to the who's who of Homo family reunions, can we back up just a sec? What exactly does genus Homo even mean? Don't want to get all Latin on me, I need the simple version.
Think of it like this. Life on Earth. It's a giant library, right? Tons of shelves, sections, the whole shebang. So genus is like one of those library shelves. It groups together species that have, those key similar traits. So as Homo folks, we're all on that same shelf sharing books on walking upright, having those bigger brains, and hey, that knack for using tools, even if some of us were better at it than others.
Okay, so less about looking identical, more about having those shared family traits. Makes sense, but still. 9 different species. That's a lot of holiday gatherings.
It really shows you just how diverse our ancient family really was. And, some of them were hanging out here a lot more recently than you might think.
Which brings us to the big question, right? Who were these other human species? Did they think like us? Have their own cultures, languages, maybe even art? I have so many questions.
Let's start with the all-star, the one everyone's heard of, Neanderthals.
Right, the classic caveman image.
Sure, but they were a lot more complex than those cave drawings suggest. We used to think of Neanderthals as this dead end, but they lived alongside our own ancestors and get this, even interbred with them.
Wait, really?
Oh, yeah. If your family tree goes back to Europe or Asia, chances are you've got a little bit of Neanderthal DNA in you right now.
Whoa, okay, that's kind of blowing my mind right now.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just one species replacing another, they were mixing it up.
Exactly. And that mixing, those genes, it's fascinating. It kind of hints that maybe, just maybe, these extinct humans weren't as different from us as we once believed. Some researchers even think that Neanderthals might have given us some traits we see today, like how some people are adapted to colder climates.
So my love of winter could be thanks to my Neanderthal ancestors. Now there's a conversation starter. But hold on, things are about to get way more mysterious with our next relative, right?
Yeah.
This is where the DNA detective work really gets going.
You're talking about Denisovans there? Well, let's just say they prove how much we still don't know.
Okay, what makes them so intriguing?
Well, we've got proof they were around, definitely.
Yeah?
And we know they were getting to know both Neanderthals and those early humans, our ancestors leaving their genetic mark pretty much everywhere. Ever wonder how some folks are so well adapted to high altitudes, like it's nothing? Might be a little bit of Denisovan DNA, especially in people with Melanesian ancestry.
Wow, it's like this hidden legacy still with us today. That's wild. But here's the thing. We've got barely any Denisovan fossils. Like, we're talking a finger bone, some teeth. It's not a lot to go on.
Like trying to figure out a 1,000-piece puzzle with only like 10 pieces, right? But those few pieces, they've given us some amazing clues.
And to make it even more interesting, right next to those Denisovan bone fragments, archaeologists found jewelry. It makes you wonder, how sophisticated were they? What were they thinking? What did they believe? We're just starting to get a glimpse.
Absolutely. And let's switch gears a bit. Time for a more, shall we say, textbook example of early humans. Homo erectus. They were roaming this planet long before Neanderthals or Denisovans showed up.
Oh yeah, Homo erectus. I remember seeing those models in textbooks, always kind of hunched over, looking, well, primitive, I guess.
Yeah, not quite accurate, as it turns out. We've learned a lot since then. Discoveries like Man of Java and that Peking Man find, they showed us that Homo erectus. They were actually pretty modern in how they, stood up, upright, just like us, and with much bigger brains than those who came before them. Plus, they were the first ones in the Homo family to really get out of Africa, spread across Asia, even parts of Europe. Real trailblazers.
Talk about pioneers, going into the unknown, adapting. That's impressive.
Shows their ingenuity, for sure. They were crafting tools, controlling fire, heck, probably even building shelters. This was a species on the move, literally.
Yeah, more advanced than they get credit for.
Yeah.
But how'd we go from Homo erectus to, us? Is that where our next relative comes in?
You got it. Let's talk Homo heidelbergensis. They popped up about, 700,000 years ago. They're kind of like that link, maybe, between Homo erectus and both Neanderthals and us, modern humans.
So like a common ancestor. Potentially.
Right. And their claim to fame, those brains were getting bigger, suggests a huge leap in how they thought, a major step toward all the complex stuff we associate with being human language, social behavior, even art.
So bigger brains, new skills. Things are getting really interesting in the Homo family. But get this, our next relative. Total curveball to the timeline, and they were only just discovered.
You're talking Homo naledi, 2013 South African cave system. Shook up the whole field of anthropology, that's for sure.
What's so special about them? They come with a time machine or something.
Almost as strange. Imagine finding these fossils, but they've got this weird mix of features. Small brain case, like way, way back in the family line, but then their hands, their feet, surprisingly human-like.
Like an evolutionary mix and match.
Exactly. And here's the kicker. Homo naledi lived fairly recently, like 300,000 years ago, meaning they were around the same time as other, more modern human species. Throws a wrench in the old timeline, for sure. Big debate about where they fit in the grand scheme of things.
It's like finding that missing puzzle piece, but instead of completing the picture, it's like, wait, now there's a whole other puzzle? And speaking of puzzles, let's hop over to the Philippines. We've got another relative to meet. Homo luzonensis.
Now this is a mystery and a half. Picture this. A few bones, an island, and bam, hints of a human species we never even knew existed. Happened just a few years back, too.
Okay, already hooked. But what makes Homo luzonensis so different?
Well, they were tiny. We're working with limited remains, mostly teeth. But researchers think they might have been small, like maybe even smaller than Homo floresiensis small.
Hold up. Smaller than the hobbits.
Yeah.
How's that even possible?
That's the cool part. It's probably this thing called island dwarfism.
Yeah.
Imagine. You're stuck on an island, right? Resources are limited. Over time, the ones who do best, the ones who don't need as much to survive, smaller offspring, they become the norm. And boom, the whole species shrinks down.
So basically, island life is like, honey, I shrunk the humans.
Ah!
Wild.
Evolution at its finest, right? And with Homo luzonensis, they might have taken it even further. Their finger and toe bones, they're shaped like they were good climbers, maybe even lived in the trees part-time.
Okay, island-dwelling humans, challenging everything we thought about size. But hold on to your hats, because next up is Homo floresiensis, the OG hobbits, and they take things to a whole other level.
Get this. 3 feet tall, sharing their prehistoric Indonesian island with giant rats and mini elephants. Sounds like a fantasy novel, right? But that was life for Homo floresiensis.
3 feet tall, for real. What's the theory on how they got so small?
Still up for debate, actually. Some think they came from Homo erectus, remember? Those guys spread out. They're saying thousands of years on Flores, isolated, led to some extreme island dwarfism. But, and this is a big but, others look at their skeletons, especially the hips and feet, and they're saying, nope, different branch of the family entirely. Maybe an even earlier ancestor, way before Homo erectus even left Africa.
Talk about a prehistoric mystery. It's like trying to solve a family tree where half the branches are missing and the other half look like they were drawn by Picasso. And just when you thought it couldn't get any weirder, we've got our final relative. This one throws the whole textbook out the window.
Ah, the Red Deer Cave people. And you're right, this discovery, total game changer, imagine.
Yeah.
21st century, right? We're finding human fossils dating back to a time when woolly mammoths were still around, when our ancestors in Europe were painting caves. That's what happened back in 2012 in a cave system in southwest China.
Wait, so they were alive that recently? I thought we were it by then.
That's what everyone thought, and that's what makes it so huge. These Red Deer Cave folks, they were kicking it a mere 14,500 to 11,500 years ago in their bones. Totally unique mix of old and new, like nothing we've ever seen.
So we're talking a whole separate branch of the family then. But what makes them so different?
It's all in the bones. They've got traits that scream ancient, like that big brow ridge, smaller brain case, you know. But then you've got their tools, maybe even art. That points to a level of sophistication we see in much later humans.
Okay, so what's the verdict? Missing link, hybrid, or something else entirely? Give me the theories.
That's the million-dollar question. We're still working on it. Some researchers are saying, hey, maybe this is a late surviving group from a totally unknown human species. Like, imagine. It really shows how much is still out there. Others think maybe it's all that interbreeding, muddling up the family tree even more.
It's like someone hit shuffle on the entire story of human evolution. We've gone from this nice straight line to this tangled mess of different humans, all living together, mixing, evolving side by side.
And here's the thing. This is just the beginning. There could be other cousins out there just waiting to be discovered. Each one could rewrite history as we know it.
Okay, I need a minute to process all this.
Yeah.
It's like everything I learned about human evolution just got flipped on its head.
It's a lot, right? But that's what makes this whole thing so fascinating. Every new discovery, it challenges everything.
It makes you realize just how much our view of the past can change. But what does it all mean for us? Here in the present day, we've met our long-lost family from Neanderthals to hobbits. But where do we go from here?
Honestly, it's kind of mind-blowing, you know? We had this whole idea of humans, like we were the big finale of evolution, the only ones to ever really make it. But now, we're just one branch on this massive, ancient family tree. So, like, what does it mean to be human when you've got all this diversity in our past? The million-dollar question, right, makes you think about all those things we think make us us. Things like, oh, I don't know, complex thoughts, language, art, heck, even just love, compassion, those feelings. Did those things just evolve once in our little branch? Or did they pop up, multiple times, maybe differently in all these other
It's
humans?
like we were trying to define ourselves, but now we're seeing all these reflections of humanity in all these different faces all over our family tree.
Yeah.
It's humbling, but kind of exciting too.
Exactly. It makes you rethink where we fit in the grand scheme of things. We're not just the end of a straight line. We're part of something way bigger, way more complicated, and honestly, way more interesting than we ever thought.
Puts things in perspective, for sure. We're all connected, not
Right.
just by our genes, but by this shared experience, this human experience, whatever that means. It's kind of profound when you think about it.
And that's the beauty of studying human evolution. It's not just about dusty old bones, it's about figuring out what makes us human, all the messy, complicated, fascinating parts.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
So next time someone tries to tell you humans, oh, we came from apes, simple as that, you can set them straight. It's not a straight line, my friend. It's a journey full of twists and turns with surprises around every corner. And guess what? We still got so much more to learn.
Oh, absolutely. Every single fossil, it's like a new chapter, rewriting history before our very eyes.
Well, on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this incredible deep dive into our ancient family album. But before we go, one last thought for you to ponder. If human evolution is this complex, this full of surprises, what other secrets are still out there, buried in time, just waiting to be discovered?
Those are the questions that keep us digging, keep us asking why and searching for answers. And who knows, maybe one day it'll be you who uncovers the next piece of the puzzle, the next clue to our shared human story.
And we'll be here ready to dive deep into those discoveries with you. Thanks for coming along on this amazing journey. Until next time, stay curious, keep asking questions, and never stop exploring.